Hello and warmly welcome to the return of Type 1 Thursday. Type 1 Thursday has been enjoying a beautiful summer break, but we are now back and more than happy to share thoughts, concerns, and everything regarding Type 1 diabetes and blood sugar management and food, nutrition, all of these things that really, bother us really in our everyday life. I am Hanna. I am the founder of Hanna Diabetes Expert. I am also a type 1 diabetic since 34 years. I was diagnosed in 1985. And I have a fantastic topic for you today. This one is for the ladies though. So if any guys are watching, please, you're welcome to stay. But it's going to get a lot with female hormones and stuff. So if you're interested, please tag along. If not, I completely understand if you choose to maybe not stay around for this particular episode of Type 1 Thursday, because today we are talking about how to control blood sugar before your period, during your period, all of these things that are really difficult to a certain extent when you do live with type 1 diabetes, because it's not just one hormone that is fluctuating, it's all of them at the same time. And remember that you don't even produce one of the key hormones, and that's why you don't maybe have as much of an easy time as other ladies have with this. The fluctuating hormones ahead of your period will, in most cases, give you a very bumpy ride when it comes to your blood sugar, because, of course, our blood sugar is impacted by everything, not just insulin, movement, and nutrition, and all those things that are commonly known as things that influence blood sugar, but of course also everything else. So beautiful hormones such as estrogen and progesterone definitely have a big impact on what happens to your blood sugars during or ahead of that time of the month. So basically, estrogen and progesterone are the two biggest female hormones. They are made in the ovaries, which is a really important thing for our bodies to do. It's a natural thing. They should be there, so we shouldn't maybe suppress them like some may suggest. But what they do is that they essentially prep the uterus for the upcoming pregnancy, which is then, of course, if it doesn't happen, then that's when you have your period. So that is the whole point of those two hormones. So PMS, premenstrual stress, or premenstrual tension, or whatever you want to call it, symptoms, whatever, that of course is the changes in hormone levels. That's why you sometimes feel cranky, sometimes you want to cry about it, sometimes you are really hungry, sometimes you crave weird foods that you didn't have any clue that you were even eating anymore, and a lot of things can happen when your hormones are at play. And this is also what causes the erratic blood sugars ahead of your period. This also causes the role of these hormones, female hormones, can also cause insulin resistance, and that's why we get fluctuating blood sugars. The body doesn't react to the insulin like it should because it's impacted by the other hormones. What can you do to make this better, to improve this for yourself? And what are the tips and tricks that maybe you can do to help your time of the month get a little bit easier? And I am, of course, super happy to hear your experiences. So please share those with me in a comment somewhere on the interwebs, and I will continue the discussion with you there. Also remember that before I start the hows and the whys and the whatever of what to do, also remember that very often in very many cases, insulin resistance or insulin sensitivity returns on day 1 or 2 of your period. So be careful and do not push too hard on the insulin dosing. So number 1 of what you can do is to track your cycle. when you have what symptoms, and also track your blood sugar. There are beautiful apps for this, not that speak to each other, so that you can, or at least not that I found. If you know of an app that combines period tracking or cycle tracking with your blood sugar, please let me know, because I'm looking for one of those myself. But what you can do is to look at the trends from both of these trackings and compare them and see sort of where and when where you can expect to see the pattern of insulin resistance going up, and you know exactly on which day, at which point of time in your cycle, you have to start reacting, so that you can sort of go ahead of time before it becomes a catastrophe. In terms of blood sugars, of course. And this can be, of course, also done on paper, absolutely, but I like to keep everything digitalized, or as much as I can digitalized. So that's why I would prefer to have an app to track both of these at the same time. This is also, of course, in terms of tracking, this is where a CGM really, really does pay off. Am I here at the moment? But that's exactly where you can see when exactly the blood sugar went up, and you don't have to wait for the finger prick, because the CGM is the movie of your blood sugar, and the finger pricks are sort of the still pictures that you take every once in a while, so that you get a bigger overall picture, definitely when it comes to tracking your period and all that stuff, but also generally in life. So I recommend every single type 1 diabetic who has the possibility to get one, do get a CGM of some kind, so that you have a better overview of what's going on in your body, because we're all individuals and all react differently. This goes hand in hand with the tracking, but find out how insulin resistant you become, so that you can change your insulin dosages in time, or ahead of time, even before even the blood sugar starts going up. You can change your, for example, basal dose, if that what needs tweaking and tracking during that time, or bolus, or maybe both need to be increased a little bit in the sort of week or days before your period. Some women also experience a few days of insulin resistance when they ovulate, in the middle of the cycle, but not everyone, and so that's also a good reason for tracking, but so that you can find out how much more insulin you need. Number 3 is be ahead of the curve. So make sure that you do find the patterns through your tracking, through your dual tracking, and you know what is happening when, so that you can act before anything really happens at all. This also comes with, you have to go through how much you should increase your doses with when you become insulin resistant ahead of your period, with your healthcare professionals. Or if you feel comfortable doing it alone, then you know what, that's yours. But I do strongly suggest that you talk to a healthcare professional, like your doctor, your CD, or a nurse or something, who can help you figure this out and how to play with the dosages if you're not comfortable doing it yourself. Number 4, I know it's difficult in many cases, but do keep to your healthy lifestyle. So do try to keep to your nutritious, nutrient-dense foods that you're eating. Make sure that you move your body. That also helps cramping and all of that stuff if you have problems with that. Make sure that you de-stress, because this is an additional stress on the body, and that could also cause insulin resistance and your blood sugars to be wonky. Make sure that you have the supplements that you need. Magnesium can be really good for cramping and also for de-stressing. Make sure you hydrate properly. And those were my 4 main tips on how to handle this. The reason why I took this up today at all, why this is a topic today, is because I was asked on Instagram how I handle it in my own case. And I have to say that I used to have huge problems with insulin resistance ahead of my cycle, when just a couple of years ago, and it would be up, in the 200s, or sort of 10, 11 millimoles, without me doing anything differently. And so I tried to handle it with these 2 tips and tricks that I've just given you. Tried to work with insulin dosages, tried to work with all of these things that I have, all these tools that I have in my toolkit. but nothing. It was a hit and miss. I didn't really know if it was going to be successful, if I increased the dose too early so that I would go low. All of these things, it was really difficult. But actually, I have to say, the longer, and I know this sounds stupid, but the longer that I have stayed low carb and keto and not have eaten that much sugar, the more my hormones have altogether sort of regulated, so that I don't really have a problem today at all. Maybe it could be an age thing as well. I'm older now. I have a different body to what it was a couple of years ago, but I really strongly believe that eating healthy, nutritious food can really help regulate your hormones, even the female hormones. And today, maybe I notice one day ahead of my cycle that, oh, something is off. I'm a little bit insulin resistant today, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, it's coming. Thank you so much for watching this fantastic comeback of Type 1 Thursday. I can't wait to see you again. Leave your experience in a comment below, and I'll be happy to chat with you there.